Good afternoon. My name is Assistant Commissioner Richard Chambers and I am the Operation Commander for this situation. I'd firstly like to acknowledge I'd like to acknowledge the understanding and patience of the public as we work to resolve this current situation. We have made very good progress today engaging with a number of the leaders among the protest group. We have also seen, as a consequence of that, some vehicles moved voluntarily. I'd also like to acknowledge the public comments of some of those leaders within the group to demonstrate their intent to work with us to resolve this situation peacefully and taking into consideration the needs of the general public here in Wellington. While we keep seeing positive movement, police will exercise judgment about the application of our tactics. For that reason, we will continue to encourage the group to reduce the impact of their protest. Police have today noticed an influx of people to the area, including many children. However, the crowd has been orderly. We have secured towing capability, and we are thankful to those operators for their cooperation with us and coming to support the situation here we are wanting to resolve. This is a big task ahead of us, and it's a specialist one. We're very grateful for the operators from around New Zealand who have shown that willingness to work with us. We must remember too that the work that we are doing here is in the interests of the Wellingtonian workers, residents and students to resolve the situation peacefully for everybody. Police again urge the protesters to take the opportunity to move their vehicles to Sky Stadium or another parking facility. Vehicles that continue to be parked illegally are at risk of being towed and seized. We have been very clear in our intent to unblock the roads, and protesters have had ample opportunity to comply with the law and the standard conditions for all protests and demonstrations on Parliament grounds. This also means removing all structures such as tents and marquees. As the Commissioner of Police alluded to yesterday, this remains an incredibly challenging and complex situation to manage. Police are taking care not to escalate matters unnecessarily. We've seen influences within the protest group calling for the roads to be cleared. That is an encouraging step forward. We continue for those influences within the group to do the right thing. This is a positive sign, and recognising that this is a disparate group, it will take some time for this conversation to work its way through to a solution for everybody. There have been no significant incidents or arrests at the protest in the last 24 hours. Questions?
Assistant Commissioner, you've said that you've secured capabilities for towing. When are we going to see these put into action and those cars moved? Absolutely.
Look, as I've said, this is a very complex situation and we are mindful of tactics needing to be carefully thought through so that the situation is not escalated. And as we've had that positive engagement today with influencers within the group, also saying themselves publicly that they want to work with us and they are working with us to resolve this. We've got to bear in mind the impact of this protest is on fellow citizens of our country and people here in Wellington, and there's an understanding that the sooner that can be resolved the better, and we are cautiously stepping through what options that we've got to prevent an escalation to get that peaceful resolution, whilst also acknowledging the lawful right to protest.
Now that you have towing resources on hand, did that come from the Wellington region or did you have to scope out other regions from across the country?
We have secured assistance from operators across New Zealand.
Right, so that could go as far as Auckland?
Absolutely.
Is the Army involved in any of this? Have you got support from the Army? Have they come back to the police with that request?
As you're aware, we made a formal request some days ago to New Zealand Defence and we await a formal response.
Do you have a figure around how many voluntarily left today if there have been no towings?
No, I don't. I think we've had about a dozen vehicles that were parked illegally leave today, and that's really encouraging.
And do police know how many vehicles are actually occupying the streets? There was 355 tickets given yesterday by the council.
Sure, yeah.
How many vehicles are actually on the streets?
Look, obviously, as I've said, there has been an increase in people coming to join the protest today, so that's obviously meant additional vehicles parked on the streets. In terms of an exact number, I suspect around about 450 or above. Yeah.
You said that there's been good progress, but what has the progress been in the last 24 hours?
Willingness by those influences within the protest group to engage with police, to understand that we want a peaceful resolution for everybody, but ultimately our first goal is, as the Commissioner said yesterday, was to clear the roads so that the people of Wellington can go about their business without obstructions in place. So the positive engagement today with those influences has meant that there's an understanding of what we're all trying to achieve here. And particularly that police don't want to stop the lawful right to protest, but you can't make that an unlawful protest. And whilst there are vehicles blocking roads, it's an unlawful protest.
How much control do those leaders actually have over the group? Because we've seen police walking around the grounds today being abused, there's videos of them being hounded by people. Do those leaders actually have control over protesters?
Well, look, let's be realistic here. There's a lot of people who have joined this protest, and we appreciate that. But within the group, there are clearly some influences and some leaders who are engaging with us, and we appreciate that. That's our approach has been to try and resolve the situation by understanding what everybody needs here and wants to do. So I'm happy that those people that we are engaging with are the right ones to help us make progress, and we've seen that today with the removal of a small amount of vehicles, but that's as a consequence of realising that we want to clear the roads.
So you've moved 12 vehicles, but there's definitely probably more than 12 that have come and legally parked today. So is there really any progress being made to...
Sure, I think it's that common understanding of what everybody is trying to achieve here at present, and we've made good progress today. What I'd also like to say is, because you've touched on the police on the ground down there, our staff are working incredibly hard in a very, very challenging situation here, and they too want to be able to go about their job as police people without being abused, without being given a hard time. These are normal people wearing uniforms trying to do the right thing here, and any behaviour, be it towards police or any member of the public that breaks the law, we need to act with. But at present, the numbers that we've had here today, yes, it's grown during the day. We've seen that every day, actually. People are coming in to join the protest. It's actually been really orderly, and we haven't seen any significant incidences or arrests in the last 24 hours, and that's encouraging.
Have any of your staff contracted COVID-19 since the group started?
I'm not aware of that at this stage, no.
David Seymour went and he's now met with some of these protesters. Two things. What's police's view on that? Would you advise politicians to be engaging with them, but also does him having negotiations, how does that impact the work of police negotiators doing a job?
Look, I think we'll all appreciate that it's not my role to comment on what politicians choose to do, so that's a matter for the government and other politicians to consider.
But are you worried that it's going to impact the role of police, police having negotiations with them, because you're essentially making two arms in negotiations?
Yeah, our focus is continuing to engage with those influences within the protest group at this stage.
Do you need to be in the room with the politicians, though, if they're having any negotiations?
I don't think so, no. We'll focus on the influences within the protest group, and what politicians do is entirely up to them.
By when are you hoping for the roads to be cleared and for business to be back to normal in Wellington?
Well, we appreciate this has been going on for some days. We've made appeals to work with us to help clear the roads, resolve the situation peacefully. We're making small steps. I can't stand here and tell you that this is going to be resolved tomorrow, but I think we're seeing encouraging signs by the engagement that we're getting, small number of vehicles leaving, and the fact that we've had no major incidences. But our goal remains we need to open the roads so everybody can go about their lawful business.
But what's the time frame for that? Are we talking a week or longer?
Sooner next.
I can't give you a time frame at this stage. That we have explained to the protesters, the influences within the protesters, that the sooner this is resolved for everybody, the better. And we're making confident, albeit small, steps forward. So, of course, for Wellingtonians, we need to make sure that we are working as best as we can and as hard as we can to get that outcome for Wellington. We've got the cooperation of influences within the group. We're making small steps, but as I said at the beginning, I thank the people of Wellington for your patience and understanding as we deal with what's a very complex
It
situation.
seems like over the last 24 hours you guys have gone back a step, because yesterday it was like we're going to tow tomorrow, and then this morning Costa said we're going to tow today. There's been no towing,
Sure.
and now you're saying you're working again with protesters.
Appreciate that. What I'm saying here is that, yes, the Commissioner has very clearly outlined an intent there, but we also need to be very careful as we think through options available to us. Whilst we're making positive steps forward with that engagement, then we need to think about what our tactics could be and how best do we deal with those to prevent escalation of a situation while we're making good progress with the protest influences, albeit small steps.
For some of these vehicles, is it going to take a little bit more than just a tow truck? I mean, some of them are pretty well established, like a camper van, a truck with awnings, camp seats up the front. They've really set it up as home. Is it going to be as easy as just chucking on the hook and towing the vehicle away? Is it going to have to be a bit more than that for some of these vehicles, especially along Molesworth Street and Bunny Street?
Absolutely, it's complex, isn't it? And we are working through all the situation before us and what that might mean and how do we resolve each of the situations in front of us. As you say, there are a number of different things for us to be thinking about there, and we're working through that.
In the front.
We're 9 days on now, and obviously, Wellingtonians can appreciate the fact that police don't want to escalate the situation with force, etc. But are police open to the idea or the approach that at some stage it's going to have to change from discussions and encouragement to force?
Oh, of course. Well, that's those are the situations that we are working through and thinking about, and how do we best deal with the complexities of this situation. That's what we do. But as we're making good progress, albeit small steps, then we want to make sure that we get the cooperation of those influences. We do have that, and it's tracking in the right direction. I appreciate that's not as quickly as many might like, but we have to balance that approach with the impact of other tactics that we have available to us. And we need to, priority here is to be thinking about the safety of everybody.
And was Thursday last week kind of what made the approach of having to step back and really have to take this in those small steps rather than those huge amount of officers coming in?
So, look, I mean, I think what occurred last week obviously is a demonstration of the sorts of approaches that we can take, but I am not so sure that that is necessarily going to be providing the right results for us right now while we're making good progress. As has been said a number of times, our priority is to clear the roads, get the cooperation of those people that are blocking the roads. We have made some good positive steps forward today. That's a better outcome for everybody, that is including the protesters, but also, of course, the people of Wellington.
On the first day of the protest, there were a handful of tents at one stage, which is by then an illegal occupation based on Parliament rules. Were there any requests to police to assist with removing them then, and why didn't that happen?
This is obviously a very dynamic situation, and yes, there has been an increase in the number of tents that have been put up on the Parliament grounds there. We're aware of that, as we have said, that it is our desire that those be removed. At the moment, we are working very hard to open the roads for everybody.
Were there any requests on that first day to help with removing those tents?
Yes, the Speaker has said to us that obviously the protest is unlawful. People have erected tents on the grounds of Parliament. I can't confirm what day. Sorry, I can't comment on what day it is.
Do you have any plans to shut down the food operations that are happening right now, like the kitchen on Grant Street?
We are obviously working through that. We are aware that the protest group is well supported by food and there's some sanitation down there and what have. We're very aware of that. But simply cutting off the food chain to the protesters, I don't think is going to get the outcome that everyone's trying to achieve.
When you say that you're working with protest leaders, what is the end goal or the ideal outcome for you? Is that the protest leaders going to turn around to their group and say, okay guys, pack up, let's go home? Like what are you hoping to achieve with that?
What we're hoping to achieve is that there's an understanding that we need to be able to open the roads up to allow people to go about their business. That's the common understanding that we're working really hard to push forward.
So
and
does
we've
that
seen
look like the
small
leaders
steps.
telling protesters, guys, let police do this? Is that what
I
you're
think
asking
it's
them to
what
do?
we're asking protest leaders to do is to encourage other protesters to remove their vehicles. Let the roads open so people can go about their business. Protesting is protected under New Zealand law, lawful protest that is. Blocking roads is not the mature way forward to resolve the issue that they are protesting about.
Are you going to have to? Are you going to have? I don't know. Are you going to have to expand your ideas a bit here, because these people are very stubborn and they're almost there as individuals. I mean, these are the people we've spoken to today. They don't care who's the leader inside. All they care about is these mandates ending. They'll allow tickets to keep occurring on their cars if that means that they'll stay there. It doesn't matter to them. They're there to protest. Do you need to kind of reevaluate your approach to this? Because it seems as though you're a bit optimistic as to them just listening to you to move their cars away.
Our goal as police is to ensure law and order and safety of people. Appreciating the right to lawful protest, that's obviously, we respect that. But our goal is to ensure the safety of everybody, that there is law and order. The issue the protesters have about mandates is not something for the police to engage in. That's a matter for interest groups and the government to discuss.
Yeah, but are you being a bit optimistic as to just allowing them to move their cars themselves? That's my question.
I think that what we've seen today is positive engagement and an understanding of what we are trying to achieve, and trust as well. Trust in that we've been saying, please just move your cars, take them down to Sky Stadium.
But you can recognise that Wellingtonians are a bit fed up. It's day 9 now, and
yes,
from their point of view, not a lot has happened.
Yes, and
the roads remain blocked.
That's absolutely right, and we need to balance our tactical considerations to ensure that we don't end up with a worse problem. And the ultimate priority is to not forget that our goal is to open the roads so that people can go about their business.
Last 2 questions, please, here, then
There have been reports of white supremacist links in some of these groups, and the far right, some extremism, and we've seen various threats made to politicians and journalists. And I guess, how seriously are you taking those threats, and what's your kind of view of the risk profile of the protest?
I'm not going to comment on anything specific, but obviously an operation of this nature, we are considering everything, all the information available to us. Our goal is to make sure that everybody is kept safe.
In your dialogue with these protest leaders, did they understand that their activities are causing chaos within Wellington and Wellingtonians' lives? Did they understand that?
Yes, there is an understanding, absolutely, that the method of their protest at present around blocking streets is very disruptive to the people of Wellington.
So will the streets remain blocked for a matter of weeks, days, months? What is your forecast on how long?
I can't comment on that, sorry. We're working very, very hard to get the situation resolved for everybody. Thank you.
Okay, thanks everyone.